Welcome everyone to our Learning and Knowledge Commons at UN Library and Archives, Geneva. We're broadcasting from UN Geneva for an event, a new learning event that we hope you will appreciate. Today, we're going to talk about digital diplomacy in practice, how knowledge sharing happens and doesn't throughout the UN system here in Geneva. So we're going to talk about a reality that is Geneva, and we're going to learn a little bit more about the gap existing between the rhetoric of knowledge sharing and the actual reality based on data analytics that have been studied by the DiploFoundation. We're also going to look at the interlinkages between International Geneva and local Geneva, and also understand a little bit more about how International Geneva is perceived in other diplomatic hubs around the world. We have today with us three speakers. First of all, I would like to welcome Jovan Kurbalia, Executive Director of DiploFoundation here in Geneva, just back from a summit on digital diplomacy in Malta. Thank you for joining us, Jovan. I would also like to welcome Anja Diagic, who is together with Jovan in the DiploFoundation, and she's a researcher in AI and data lab with the foundation, as I said. And then we're going to have a respondent, Alexandra Kuzmanovic, who is joining us from WHO, where she's leadership social media manager. And so a position in which she sees a lot of this digital knowledge reality as it happens, and also on the heels of the terrific experience that WHO had during the COVID crisis. We are hoping to have also some insights from you, Alexander. So thank you to the three of you for joining us today. Our event will last a little bit over 1 hour. We're going to use Mentimeter for the audience. Feel welcome, all of you who are joining us. This event is designed for diplomats and staff and interns at the United Nations, but because we're going online, it's also open to many of you who are joining us. You can see now the QR code for our Mentimeter, 72990894. You may use this from right at the beginning when our speakers are going to present to raise your questions. We're going to pack those questions, and I, as a moderator, I'm going to voice your questions. If there is time at the end of the event, we will also bring you live if you want to make comments and be on screen and be seen and heard by everybody else. So I hope we're going to have an exciting event. This could be the first of a series of events going deeper into digital diplomacy. And we had to begin with the DiploFoundation because the DiploFoundation is celebrating now in 2022 20 years of operations. And when you think that digital diplomacy is roughly 20 years old, it means that these guys and ladies were on the ball right from the beginning. And before we dive in, Jovan, question to you as Executive Director, specialist, and heritage knowledge master of digital diplomacy, as I know you personally, we go back quite a long time. Before we dive into the three learning points that I mentioned before, could you give us a better sense of what is digital diplomacy, just very briefly before we go into it?
Thank you, Francesco. Thank you for hosting us, and we are really pleased and honored to contribute to this great initiative of knowledge commons, training and sharing of information, which will be our topic today. Digital diplomacy is one of terms that has been triggering a lot of confusion. You change, there is cyber diplomacy, tech diplomacy, digital diplomacy, but what we have been defining for last 20 years, and in Malta it is reconfirmed as a good definition, is that it has three aspects. It deals with changes in society that impact diplomacy, new tech hubs like Silicon Valley, like Bangalore or Pearl area in China. Therefore, diplomats have to adjust to this new reality which is around them, which is shaped by diplomacy. This is the first aspect. Second is new topics on diplomatic agenda. In Geneva, but also in New York, Brussels, they have to negotiate cybersecurity, privacy, online human rights, digital identity. Therefore, digital issues are becoming important agenda item at the UN meetings and bilateral meetings worldwide. And third aspect of digital diplomacy is the use of new tools, which we'll focus today. Classical one is social media, but it's also simple websites or increasingly hybrid meetings like this or online meeting like this one, metaverse which is coming, and artificial intelligence and data. Therefore, 3 points of digital diplomacy: changing geopolitical, geoeconomic and social environment for diplomacy, new topics on diplomatic agenda, and new tools that diplomats use.
Thank you so much, Jovan. So with that introduction and chapeau, let's dive in. So we promise our audience a better understanding of the gap between the rhetoric of knowledge sharing and the reality as data demonstrated, the interlinkages between International Geneva and local Geneva, and finally, how International Geneva is digitally perceived in other diplomatic hubs around the world. So you just launched a couple of weeks ago the Geneva Digital Atlas, so which is packed with this kind of knowledge, and you're going to offer us concrete examples from that massive work. So over to you. We're all ears and eyes.
Thank you, Francesco. Together with my colleague Anja Djajic, who is connecting from our Belgrade office, which is also AI and Data Center, and together with Jovan Njegić, running this new Diplo, let's say, creative center on AI and data, I will guide you through this presentation, answering 3 questions that you posed to us. And I think these 3 questions are excellent. And the questions are the gap between rhetorics and reality knowledge sharing, interlinkages between International Geneva and local Geneva, and visibility of Geneva worldwide. Let's move directly to this gap between knowledge sharing, gap between rhetorics and reality. You cannot have a meeting, any meeting in Geneva without call for sharing knowledge and information and data. It comes in different shapes, let's say data, information, knowledge. Therefore, there is a very strong rhetoric on sharing, but reality, as we'll see shortly, is slightly different. And why is it important to have it? It's not anymore the question nice to share. It's more and more need to share. Let's say 5-10 years ago, it was nice call that organizations share information, and that would be almost courtesy or something good to do. Now it's not anymore courtesy. It is a really important and key aspects of the full key operation and functionality of international organization, as we'll see on one concrete example. There are many examples, but I choose this example on data governance. Example why we need to share, not anymore just nice to share. You can find this concrete, I'm sure if you reflect on the work of your organization, you will find the need for this sharing. Why? Data is, for example, if you discuss data as a privacy issue, you cannot discuss without understanding standardization, because whatever you agree on privacy will be shaped by question of technical standards, or increasingly security, or use of data in e-commerce. And within the 3 kilometers radius around the building where I am, the WMO building at my office, or Francesco, your office, you have more or less all organizations which deal with different aspects of in this case, data governance. But it can be applied to almost any policy issue, as we'll be seeing shortly. Therefore, the answer to the first question that you pose is, it's not anymore just nice to share, it is need to share. The reason is that digitalizations made obsolete silos that traditionally exist. And ahead of us, we are going to have extremely profound change in order to recalibrate this the gap between rhetorics and reality on the first question. Second question that you pose to us is, okay, what's going on in Geneva? Are organizations sharing knowledge? And we call it X-ray of interlinkages. And answering the question, what are the knowledge connections among Geneva organizations? And as you will see in a few seconds, Anya from our office in Belgrade will show you how she and Jovan Njegić and another colleague, how they answer this question. How do you get to the point to see if organizations are really sharing information or just they are delivering nice graphs or nice speeches, as unfortunately is happening rather often in the overall rhetorics. Anya, over to you to explain us how you basically did this X-ray.
Thank you, Jovan, and thank you for having us today. So the building block for our X-ray interlinkage analysis is simple hypertext links. So we analyze all those links that you have when you click here button, and then it leads you to another page. We wanted to see how much of those click here links leads from one organization in Geneva to another one. So one example of this linking is when you look, for instance, at UN Geneva, One News, you can see here that that UN Geneva is linking UNEP. So when you click on this link, it's sending you to another one page. So we like this links, we analyzed almost 96 million of links, and we done analysis for 46 organizations in Geneva that are based in Geneva. And we wanted to do a research, and we started like in every other application that we made from playing. So first we said, okay, we have some amount of links that leads from one organization's page to another one organization's page. But how significant that amount is when we look relative to all links that that organization is receiving all around the world. So you have that click here button that leads you to, for instance, UN Geneva's website, and you have it from all around the world. So that amount that comes from one organization, how significant is to UN Geneva? That is one approach. And then we realized that approach is a bit poor because it's not only the significance that we can calculate, but we can do it relatively to the size of that organization that is sending links, because they might have 1,000 links on the web page and they're sending 200 to another organization. So they're making effort, and that's how we counted how collegial they are. And in the end, the size of organization in our universe is counted when you look through all links that one organization is sending to all the other Geneva-based organizations. So the bigger you are, the more collegial you are, because you're sending more links to your colleagues from other organizations. And this was a bit of math, so I will try to show you one example. So we have one small organization that has 1,000 links on its website. And there are 523 links that that small organization has on their website, and it's sending to big one. But when you look, that big organization, it receives 10 million links from all around the world. So the first approach that we have was to calculate how significant these 523 links are comparing to 10 million links that they are receiving from all around the world. So when you calculate the significance, it's not that much. It's less than 0.001%. 0.01%, that was our threshold. But when you look at the effort that that organization is making, you say, okay, wait, but they're sending more than half of their links to me. So even though I'm receiving 10 million links from all around the world, they're making huge effort, and they're really collegial to me, because those 523 links can be rather, we organize some events together and they linked me, and then they send people that are coming to events to my website to see what I'm dealing with. Or they wrote some blog and they used some of my studies and they referenced me. So those 523 links might be, and that organization is maybe small because they're dealing with narrow topics, but they're quite they're having quite influence in that topic. So they're sending me quality links. So it's not just about quantity that we counted here, but in our new version, we are count the quality of those links. And here we showed it graphically. So we have two types of graph. One is called significance, where we are calculating the significance of the relations. And the other one is, it's effort that we are making. So when we look through the significance graph, you can see here the 46 sectors that we mentioned. And you can see that, first of all, when you look those graphs, zoom out, you can see that they're much more effort than significance. So it means that people are trying, but for some organizations that's not that visible because they're huge. And when we look for, I don't know, some of those links, you can see that, I don't know, here, UNOG is sending some amount of links to the JASDA website. So here we showed how much that means to JASDA website. And here we are showing how much effort organization is making. And then the metrics that I mentioned that's called size is showed here because we need to storage it in some table as well, along with the graphical view. So here you can see the size, because if you look through this column, you can see total number of links that our actors are having. And here you can see the links that they are sending to all other organizations that are Geneva based. So for instance, GIP platform is sending almost 64% of the links to other Genevan actors. And you can see here the whole table. And now I will give words to you, Jan, to maybe conclude our analysis here, because I showed you, but the results are not that great.
Okay, then we got shock. And when I received this data, I called Jovan and Anya and say, are you sure? Can we double check it? There are only of all links of 96 million plus, almost 96 million links, only 0.49 are exchanged among Geneva-based organizations, less than 1%. That was sort of a strong indicator that there is a need to do something. And when Francesco and I exchanged this information, he said, exactly, this is what Knowledge Commons should facilitate, discussion on this and efforts to do it. Now, let me just provide another contextual information. Here is what our graphical team, the image on the left-hand side is what is the current situation. In Geneva, the roads are just passing each other. And this is on the right-hand side, you can see what it should be, interlinkages, connections. One information just to recontextualize overall discussion. A website is a proxy, it's our ID. Social media, we tweet, retweet, use Facebook, Instagram, and there is different purpose. But it is now accepted standard in international, not only in communication, that you have a website. If you are an artist and you want to have exhibition, if you have a book, if you are an organization, this is our ID. Therefore, we started analysis of the website links with the best approximation how we present ourselves online. It is our brochure. And in this context, the current situation of interlinkages in International Geneva needs to be improved. Not only for the sake of Geneva, but for the sake of really rich resources that we have here. Resources, reports, blog posts, events. And this is a call for all involved in this discussion to make an effort and to push this knowledge sharing further to the next level. And this is the second answer to the second question which Francesco and his team asked us about interlinkages in Geneva. In brief, the current situation is not good, and we have to speak with the clarity. A lot needs to be done, and this event could be one of the starting points for discussion about the knowledge commons in Geneva. We will go then to the third question, which is again using the web as a proxy. The second question was about Geneva itself. The third question is about how Geneva is visible from 53 cities worldwide. And here we use Google search as a proxy for understanding relevance. And as we have been doing research, we realize that Google, and we know it, is extremely serious in epistemology, philosophy, logic, linguistics, use of AI to indicate what are the relevant websites for us personally, but also in general. And now Anja will show how we conducted this analysis of what we call Geneva footprint or visibility of Geneva from 53 cities worldwide. Over to you, Anja.
Thank you, Johan. So yeah, as Johan already said, we thought that Google search is a good way to see the visibility of Geneva worldwide, of digital Geneva worldwide. So what we do, first we run a Google search for a certain topic. For instance, digital trade, because I'm here based in Belgrade, you can see the results that we are getting in Belgrade for the term digital trade. You can see here some of the Geneva-based organizations like UNCTAD, WEF, WTO, and here is as well Diplomacy EDU. So we collect the results of the Google search and then we analyze it. And here you can see this is our digital footprint tab. And when you choose the digital trade topic, you can see in the results for Belgrade that we bordered the Geneva-based organizations. Then again, we were playing. We first wanted to see who of the Geneva-based actors will appear when we run a Google search for certain topics. But then we started thinking, okay, but it's not the same if you're placed on the first hit and if you're 10th hit, or if you're not in the first 10 hits for the certain topic. So we started thinking, okay, if you're first, that means that you're quite good, that you have quite good dealing with that topic and that you're relevant to that topic and that because your page is first hit on the Google. Then we were thinking, okay, then maybe we can make some kind of top score or just scoring method so we can see how much digital organizations in Geneva are the influence, having influence in certain topics.
Anja,
so here
Anja,
we start, yeah.
Just on this point, before you go into this analysis, maybe if you can scroll back to the map.
Yeah, sure.
To see, we have these 53 cities, basically on all continents. And when you can click on the southern cities in Argentina, I forgot what is the name. This is the southern point with internet access, is Ushuaia. That's you can see it from that. You can scroll back to any of these 53 cities. Therefore, it means that on average, person sitting in Belgrade, in Los Angeles, in Beijing, in any other place, what do they get when they search for digital trade or almost 300 other issues? And how Geneva organizations are placed, the size of this circle represents how many times Geneva-based organizations are listed in top 10. For example, in Rome is only WEF, if I'm correct. It's very relatively small size. It's only WEF among top 10. There are OECD, European Union, and others. It doesn't mean that it will reflect every person's search in Rome. It means that on average, all users in the Rome, you get these statistics. But as you know, Google adjusts search results to each user based on cookies. Back to you, Anja.
Thank you. So yeah, and then we concluded that we can make a scoring method, because if you're as first hit, we will give you 10 points. If you're 10th hit, we will give you 1 point. And if you're not appearing in first 10 hits, that you're getting 0 points for that term, for that city. And then we decided to sum up and then to make actors ranking. So here you can see top 10 actors when you sum up all topics that we run Google search for them. But then we again separated in the fields of topics where you can see, for instance, that for human rights, you have one top list, and for UN and multilateralism, you get another top list. And then we were thinking, okay, but here you're having just some results. Maybe you want to see something between how my organization is dealing with topics that I'm interested in. And here we can choose, for instance, Office for Human Rights. And then you can see their overall rank when we sum up all terms, all cities, it's fifth. Most dominant field is calculated like the field where you have the most points in, and it's humanitarian field. Average search position is when you appear at fifth position. And here we wanted to see, okay, here you can see which place you have from which town you Google. So for humanitarian crisis, United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights is having, it's highly ranked. It's not every time first hit, but it's almost every time in first 4 hits, which is a really good result. And then maybe you want to see score when you look through all fields that we have, and maybe to compare with someone, for instance, with EPFL or ETH, and then you can see, okay, but we are not dealing with the same topics, and we are not, let's say, we're not concurrents. And here you can see that CERN is dominant in science, but Commission for Human Rights is dominant in humanitarian field and human rights. But you can compare yourself to any actor that we announced. And here are just, so you saw that we have from over 50 cities worldwide we ran Google search, but we have 4 data sets. We have digital Genevan, digital diplomacy, we have tech, and we have for media houses, tech and diplomatic footprint. We ran this Google search twice a month for over 230 terms and collect the first 10 hits. So when you sum up everything, every month we analyze almost 900,000 of search results. And we have, as I already mentioned, we have 4 types of data sets. We have diplomatic footprint, tech footprint, diplomatic on global media, and tech on global media. And all of those data sets you can find at our website, which is footprint.diplomacy.edu. And you can as well suggest some topics if you think that they are not that they are biased or they're not good enough. You can suggest a topic, and we will include it in our next search for that month. And now I'll give the word back to you, Jan.
Thank you, Anya, for this explanation of the third point from our, let's say, learning objective is to see how Geneva is seen, and in particular, how do we conduct this research by using Google as a proxy and search from 53 cities worldwide. And then it is there are 3 basically points. There's X-ray, there is also this Google footprint, and there is also question, general question, how does Geneva prepare for emerging digital and AI era? And we will show just a few projects which are ahead of us before I pass the floor back to Francesco. One is data sandbox system for the analysis of data, 1,000 data sets from health to digital, where you can compare again and normalize data, because sometimes it doesn't mean a lot if you get absolute data, but it is really powerful in normalizing data. And then we have also a speech generator as use of reinforced AI learning when you can generate speeches in the field of cybersecurity. We are preparing for other areas, and this works like a combination of human and machine intelligence. And this is where Diplo is basically placing itself in this interplay between human and machine intelligence, and you can play with it, give us suggestions. And we have also, as a third point, we have a project, Humanism, where, as you can see, we try to anchor AI in the whole values of humanity, but not just discussing ethics, which nowadays is discussed everywhere, but looking under the bonnet and understanding what is happening in AI in order to discuss policy and governance issue. And the last point on this selection of the application is that at the beginning of February, we'll have 8 Geneva Engage Award. We repeated Geneva, which will put all of these things together. And it sounds like Boutros Ghali, but it is not inspired by this. And we'll compare it with the Francesco's, with library and other actors, to put all of these threads together and to see how Geneva is engaging with the rest of the world, which is ultimate purpose of many Geneva organizations, to be relevant for the world and for the humanity, in particular for this decisive moment in the history of our rock in the middle of Milky Way. Over to you, Francesco.
Thank you so much for this presentation, Jovan and Anya. This was very revelatory. From some side, in some dimensions, is shocking to use the word that Jovan used. Certainly, it is revelatory. There is a whole world of data. We're immersed in data, and when you let data speak, then you can cluster it around questions. And as old philosophy goes, when you ask the right questions, you get the right answers, and vice versa. So I like this presentation a lot. And let me say to all of you who are online today, this presentation will be shared with you using the email that you used to register for this event or to be present in this event. So you will get that. That's the bonus for being connected with us. We're masterclass size today, but that's exactly what we do at the knowledge at the Commons. For those your friends and colleagues that haven't been able to join us today, you can tell them that this will be available on our YouTube channel and on our website, the Commons. You can catch this event again and play it again. So the advantage for you who are joining us live is clear. You can use Mentimeter. You can see the logo there, the QR in the chat. That's very important, because don't put your question in the chat, because the chat is not followed. It's not moderated by our production team in the back. They use Mentimeter. So let the questions flow. And while you're asking your questions, I have a few myself. I would like to bring Alexandra into our event, and thank you for joining us. I know you are on official travel somewhere. Actually, our 3 speakers are joining us from different places on Earth right now. So thank you for making the effort. We heard a lot about these web hyperlinks and how websites relate or not, and how organizations are relatively generous to one another or not. And we also heard about the perception that Geneva has. And actually, I think that the digital footprint is a terrific tool for all organizations that want to know where do I come when people search for the discipline that I'm active in from a different place. And I particularly like I would go on the DigiWatch to explore Ushuaia, because as Jovan said, is the last southern frontier for internet access. But you, Alexandra, you are especially a social media expert. So that's a little bit different. And so that's why we have you here as a respondent, because we wanted to connect those two. So we all know WHO, most of us have been once or more on your website, but you do a different job in using social media to do what? Share knowledge, inform, capture reactions. What is your world like? Even in the experience of the COVID, of course, that is still ongoing. What is your experience like working in WHO at senior level, in contact with your senior management and being a social media manager? How does what you saw relate to you?
Thank you so much, Francesco. Thanks for having me today. It's my pleasure. And also thanks to Jovan and Anya for great presentation. This is a lot of new learnings for me, including as well, because I'm not a web expert. And it's quite interesting to hear how we interact or don't interact with each other in digital world, despite being one UN or being in this digital center, digital diplomacy center of Geneva. I think it would be interesting if there are ever resources to do similar study for social media engagement. That would be interesting to improve the knowledge sharing and also amplifying each other work when relevant and suitable. And maybe a few factors to take into account when we analyze those interaction, lack of interactions. I can't speak from my web colleagues, but from social media perspective, it's important as well to look at who the target audience is for each of us and our digital channels, whether that's web or social channels, and also what are the resources behind it. I think we all can be better in sharing knowledge, in informing colleagues when important campaigns or important moments are coming. And our organization does it often very last minute. And it's not with bad intentions, it's more because there's always something going on and there's just no enough time to prepare everything in advance and to inform all the partners that we would like to inform in time. So it's also, I think, we still operate in a bit of an old school manner. And we are not equipped enough to keep up with digital trends, digital innovation, and digital demands, actually. When pandemic started, we had 2 social media officers in the WHO headquarters. Now we are 6. Some agencies have 2 or 3 times more people than us when it comes to social media. And you've seen how much demand for information has been since COVID started for health information, then how much misinformation and disinformation has grown. And we need to act on all those fronts and still to continue communicating about all other health aspects that WHO is working on. Maybe as well to reflect on the importance in investing in digital presence and doing it better, whether that's using web and as Jovan and Anya were suggesting, we can do way better in collaborating. When it comes to social media, there are some data showing that now we have 8 billion people in the world. Annual growth is about 1%. We have about 95 million mobile users adding annually, which is about 1.8%. Then in new internet users, it's about 4% in last year, about 192 million. And active social media users, it's over 10% growth. It's about 424 million. This is coming from VR Social latest report. So if we look into the digital landscape, social media has the highest growth, and we need to look into how we're going to respond to that demand and also how we're going to respond to that challenge. Web page is the face of the organization, and if people want to learn more about your work through any social media channel, you need to have a good web page that is updated regularly, that is also user-friendly. Personally, I haven't seen many UN web pages that are really user-friendly. Looking into public, if you look into our UN bubble, yes, we are used to our UN words. We have a UN language. We have our acronyms. We have all kinds of things that are really in our bubble. And I think we communicate to each other. And many of us, or our agencies as well, when we post on social media, it's the language that us, the same bubble, understand. We are not putting enough effort, or we don't have capacity to educate our whole organizations how to get out of the bubble, how to use the power and potential of social media networks. It's a social media network, which means socializing with all the people with clicks to wherever they are. So this is, I think, where we need to look into. In particular, social media trends are developing so fast. We have now younger and younger generations joining and defining trends in real time. By the channels of clearance, whether it's correct from all scientific, political, and aspects, we miss the trend. So we need to find ways to be more agile, more innovative, more free, to engage with people in the way how the digital trends are growing and expanding. So we've tried to open up quite a lot, I think, since Dr. Tedros took over the leadership of the WHO. He has empowered us a lot to work with social media and digital technology sector. We created a lot of new partnerships that we didn't have in the past. Pandemic definitely made it even faster. But we also had him as a leader who understands the power of digital diplomacy and social media, and who is a user himself before he became Director General. So that helped as well to move the needle and to start changing the mindset inside the organization. So I would always say as well, leadership is important to understand the power of digital presence, both web, social media, and any other digital innovation that will come our way.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. We have a first round of questions already through Mentimeter, and then I have questions as well. But audience first, we have above 15 minutes now. So let's see. The most popular question is, what can you say about the results of your analysis regarding the UN Geneva? And what are the results for UN Geneva? Now, of course, there is curiosity. We're speaking from Geneva. There is curiosity about how this applies to UN Geneva. Maybe Jovan and Anya, have you looked more carefully into UN Geneva as an organization, and how is it doing in those rankings and in those kind of hyperlink game?
Well, while Anya is looking through the chart for the UN office in Geneva, I can recall that in social media analysis, and this is the follow-up on the Alexandra's comment, UNOG office won the prize last year as being one of the most interconnected in Geneva. Mm-hmm. And during Geneva Engage on the 1st of February, we will cover social media. Anya can show later on a few tweets, and we'll cover Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and whenever we can get data about access, about interlinkages, following, likes, and other issues. And that's it. And while Anya is searching for exact data about UN office, one comment on Alexandra's question: we have good and bad news about UN. UN is very good in disability index, and it should be applauded. Many organizations are very weak when it comes to the access of people with disabilities. Therefore, congratulations to UN family. It's always above 90 when it comes to disabilities. The second problem that Alexandra pointed is that style is still megaphone style, communicating from us to others, using our language, and not stepping in the shoes of the viewers. Therefore, a lot needs to be done, and it will be a part of build up for the Geneva Engage analysis of the UN websites in terms of language structure. Anya, over to you.
Well, thank you. So here we are showing that regarding the total number of links, it has 30%. So it's not that bad because we show that only less than 1% of the whole Geneva is linked. Here, the bit sticker arrow is pointing from United Nations office to Human Rights Office, so the actor that I already showed, and we can show as well in the here in the digital footprint, they're ranked 30th of more than 200 organizations, so they're ranked quite good. I will.
Anya,
just,
you're showing still UN High Human Rights. You have to go to UNOG.
Yeah. I just need to find it within diplomatic footprint.
But summary is that 13%. It's well above the 0.5. And congratulations for the UNOG officers trying to connect to the others. It is overall ranking of 30 positions, and you can see how UNOG office is on the footprint seen from all over the world, and that's basically. And on the.
There is also a question connected to this. That what is your principal, as experts, what is your principal recommendation to improve the situation and really move on into this new era of digital knowledge?
Well, one question, there is a human and machine help. Let me try with human help. We have to really outreach to each other, to respect our research, our reports, to understand what's going on in the next door organization, whether it is WTO, WHO, ITU, and there are so many connectors as we displayed at the Geneva Digital Atlas on standards, on data, on AI. This is one, let's say, human. We can call it beer to beer or tea to tea or coffee to coffee network, which always matter. The second one is to create some sort of pool of research, basically to go through these websites, to visit these links, and to say, hey, by the way, WHO, there is an excellent research in WTO or WMO. I'm now just giving haphazardly the names. Why you don't connect to that paragraph in this research? Because it relates to your work on the online gaming. I know this is one of the new priorities of WHO. Why you don't go to the standards for online gaming which are done by ISO? That could be done quite a lot automatically. It requires a bit of mix of data, AI, scrapping, knowledge, expertise, but that would be a very powerful tool. Then people in WHO who are doing research on online gaming can get easily proposals. Maybe this proposal will be relevant or not, but they will realize that next door somebody is doing research on their behalf. And what is very important, not necessarily going to the document. You can find it in Google, but going to specific paragraph within the documents. And this is what we are currently doing. We are removing from narrative, from reports, which have some meta information. A report on online gaming, we are going to specific segments in order to unlock this knowledge. Therefore, this is the answer, Francesco. Okay. Human network and machine network.
Okay, thank you so much. Anya, you have something to add to this?
Yeah, if I might, just I think that as well is important because a lot of all organizations have a lot of qualitative data, but and they've collected it, but we need to find a way to connect it and to extract it from various sources of knowledge, like structured is stable, semi-structured, and unstructured, like texts. So we need to find a way to connect it and to extract knowledge out of our collected knowledge. So one example of it would be to make a huge knowledge graph where we can collect all our data and connect it in the right way.
Thank you. There is also a question for you, Alexandra, on social media, the way WHO engages with other social media accounts. Do you have a particular strategy there? Do you have policies that regulate the way you do that? So you can see the question on the screen, how WHO collaborates and engages with other social media accounts.
Thank you. So in terms of retweeting, for example, we are amplifying content that's related to WHO or relevant to health across the UN agencies, across our regional and country offices. In terms of going beyond that, we would mostly reply if it's relevant to reply. There are some features that are enabling cross-posting. So if we are having a joint campaign with an organization, which is not even in the UN at the moment, the FIFA World Cup is ongoing, and we have joint partnership and Bring the Moves campaign to promote physical activity. So we are cross-posting content together to make the campaign more visible. So depending on the content, depending on a campaign, depending on the objective, we would then interact with other accounts. I think it's probably easier for smaller accounts to interact more. Again, I agree what Jovan said, we are in a megaphone mode. I think using comments and reply features is something that we should invest more. But for that as well, given all the sensitiveness with the growth of social media and all eyes being on us, then we also need to be careful how we engage and what the reply is, etc. So we need more human resources to be more there in conversational manner on social media. However, our leadership and experts are engaging more using their individual accounts because they can make a personal judgment whether they want to reply to something or not. So we have been encouraging experts and leadership to be present, and what we are trying to encourage them as well to be more active and present beyond Twitter. This is another UN bubble, Twitter, which is a very important and powerful platform, and that's where world leaders are, etc. But world leaders are also moving where people are. So we have world leaders on TikTok, we have world leaders on Instagram, Facebook, very active, because depends where their populations are. So we also need to encourage them to be active on other platforms so that they can engage on individual manner.
And to your point, Alexandra, there is a question to the three of you. One of our audience is asking, but if an organization were to choose where to put the money, would it be better to invest in the website or in social media?
In my personal opinion, I think it depends what is your objective and what do you want to achieve. I think there's no one size fits all. I think that both avenues are important because social media is a place where you can put out information, but for organizations as WHO, it's more a distribution channel. We can't put all the evidence and data on social media. So we need a place where all the work is stored. And then depending on target audience, depending on objective, we use different distribution channels. So I think it really depends what the objective of the organization is and what you want to achieve. But I think both are equally important.
Yeah, I think so too. Since you have the mic now, Alessandra, one of our attendees is latching on the term you use, UN bubble, and he or she is asking, can you give an example of how you operate when you want to get out beyond the UN bubble? What do you do on social media to get out of the bubble?
So what we've expanded in past few years is we've always used social media as a listening tool. We say in our team that social media is 99% listening. So it's our eyes and ears into the conversations about WHO, health, overall world happenings that can be relevant for us. But we expanded to monitoring and analyzing on daily basis the comments that we are receiving and replies. So we are using that intelligence for our social media decisions. We can't analyze followers on every platform because there are limited data, and we have some third-party tools, but there are no perfect tools that you can get all information that you'd like. But what we know is that on WHO social media channels, large majority of followers, especially beyond Twitter, are general public. And the content that people engage on our channels is 3 things you can do to prevent cancer, or these are the symptoms of COVID-19, for example. I'm just giving a very simple example of which type of content people engage when WHO posts. For many people in-house, that's basic information and they want us to go into technical terminology, but that goes then into specific bubble, or in particular, if it's a policy, a language or policy work. When I say UN bubble, I think the NGOs that we work as well fall into that category. With all due respect, it's a very important work, advocacy and moving policy, but it's still the same group of people who are doing advocacy towards policymakers, decision makers, or politicians, WHO and those NGOs. But if you go to a regular person in the street, or like just look into your sister or mother who may not necessarily understand what we do, they don't understand that language. So I mean, even honestly, sometimes I'm not even sure how to, I'm also Serbian, how to explain what advocacy means when I work with NGOs, etc. It's not very clear to my friends. So I sometimes really have problem to, or challenge how to translate exactly what we do, that they feel that's important for them and how they should take part in the conversation.
Yeah, I think that's a feeling that all the people that work for, not only for UN bodies, but also for large international NGOs, I think they have experienced that feeling of having to look for the word.
May I please, sorry, I need to add some examples. There are so many meeting photos and so many meeting tweets and posts, and people don't really care about. And on the other side, we give them a wrong impression that all we do is sitting in meetings. All the meeting hashtags that are acronyms that they have no idea what it means. So one thing that we really are ignoring, with few exceptions, is acronym hashtags, acronym words in our posts, because that's really what even not whole UN bubble, WHO bubble, or health bubble understands. So this is maybe one practical tip what to avoid.
Yeah, that's the pro tip. And it's true that when an organization has a tendency to put images and tweets that relate to their official meetings. Now, back to you, Jovan and Anya. There are 2 questions I would like to lump together. How can we know more about digital diplomacy? And does DiploFoundation provide trainings or knowledge exchange opportunities for diplomats, staff, practitioners who want to know more? Does DiploFoundation provide trainings about these tools?
Sure, Francesco. Yes, we are training, research, and software development organization, or application development, and training is one of a pillar of our activities. We have also MA program in contemporary diplomacy provided together with the University of Malta. But what we are now focusing more and more is just-in-time training that can be developed to answer the immediate needs. Let's say, inspired by this discussion or preparation for Geneva Engage, we may have a training on how to communicate better from the UN, and probably invite Alexandra and you, Francesco, and other colleagues to be contributors, because line between events, broadcasting, and the learning is blurred. Therefore, if you add a bit of didactics, if it is organized, if it has learning objectives, what we have, for example, today in this 1 hour, there was a lot of knowledge exchange and ideas and the comments. Therefore, Diplo is trying to adjust its pedagogy to this just-in-time learning on AI, on the other issues, and it will start intensive programs as of the beginning of January, with these courses that can be developed within the weeks with a solid pedagogy and answering immediate questions, in addition to our traditional 8 weeks courses, academic degree courses. Therefore, the answer is yes, and I invite all of you to suggest, to make a points what you would like to learn in terms of knowledge, skills, and overall expertise. And this, what you are doing, Francesco, is an excellent example of filling this gap that exists currently in training in International Geneva and worldwide.
So interested people can just write to the DiploFoundation here in Geneva with their requests, their questions, and they will be answered.
Yep. You can,
Okay.
yeah, you can drop an email. I think Anya shared the email, and yes, that's the approach.
That's excellent, and it's a good segue to the most popular question on Mentimeter now is I'm quoting, there you see it on the screen, with the challenges facing developing countries, what would you advise their diplomatic missions to multiply their digital presence in International Geneva? What is that they could do, in other words, to enlarge their digital presence in Geneva? Any user-friendly tools that you see are available out there?
Sure, the short answer is no, in a sense of the shortcuts. But proper answer is I just landed last night from Malta, from the summit, where we discussed participation of small and developing countries. And this evening I'm flying to Addis Ababa for the focus on the digital diplomacy in Africa. And what we are learning currently is that there are tools from simple websites to social media, but the main challenge is that small and developing countries have to coordinate their efforts in coverage. Even very big countries cannot anymore cover fast-growing agenda. I know digital diplomacy, but it's in health, it's in humanitarian. And Anya can share with you our study, which we presented last week in Malta and in Gerba and Francophonie Summit, on the ways how to make stronger voices of the African countries in digital diplomacy, but I would say it applies to any specific field of diplomacy. It includes some suggestion about tools, but unfortunately there are no shortcuts. There is a need for capacity building, training, engagement, better coordination, and then e-tools can help here and there, but there is no silver bullet. I have to disappoint everybody.
Yeah, there is no silver bullet. And Alexandra, you wanted to add to this.
Yes, thank you, Jovan, for saying that. And I am hoping as well with yours and Anya's and the DiploFoundation work that you can help us to advocate that governments and public institutions need to invest into sustainable human resources for digital presence. Whether that's using it for communication or for functional purposes. But we've seen as well in the pandemic that many ministries of health created social media accounts in the peak of pandemic, when lockdowns were already in place, when people were already angry, losing their trust, and then the presence disappeared. This is digital channels are actually a huge opportunity to build regular trust with people we serve, whether that's on global, regional, or country level. But it takes time, it takes efforts and expertise, and it has to be regular, not just when the crisis hits. Preparedness for a crisis starts now, and that's really maybe, and even as Jovan said, even big countries are having a challenge to respond to all the needs and conversations. So we need help to advocate for strengthening this type of work and role across the public sector and across the world. Thank you.
Thank you for adding those remarks. For those of you who want to reach out to Jovan, Jovan's DiploFoundation, our colleague put their email address. You can see it there, diplo@diplomacy.edu, like in education. So you have it there. And while we are on you, Jovan and Anya, there is one last question that we didn't answer is, can we use your tool to investigate a specific domain, which is not UN Geneva or which is not in the group of those that you use for the benefit of your research?
Well,
Yeah.
you can send an email to us if you want to be included in our research, and we can include you in the new versions.
Just to add, Francesco, that's what Alexandra mentioned, and it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, and technology is usually associated with the marathon. In this marathon, what we are planning to do, we are going to move to the question of quality of links and quality of social media, which is not necessarily quantitative, but it resonates to issue which is on in the subject. Therefore, as Anya said, yes, please share for UN Geneva or any other organization, we can follow up within our time and means. But what is even more important, to cooperate with you and the knowledge commons to develop this as a bit medium or longer term discussion, to create sustainable communication in this way. That's very, very important. I had just one question for Alexandra to see if my knowledge pattern recognition works well. It's not related to this for our subject. Alexandra, are you staying in the Park Hotel in New York, based on the view from window?
I'm not. I am in Doha.
You're in Doha. Oh, I missed big time. Okay, okay, but these cities that look like each other. Therefore, my pattern recognition failed big time because I thought the look was.
But it looks. Some parts look like New York. It does remind.
Okay.
Jovan, an AI tool would have known that she wasn't in New York. Okay, well, we're leading towards the closing of this event, and attendance is waning now. You're seeing in the chat a few useful links there for all of our attendees here. For the audience, you can scroll down here. First of all, I want to recognize the study that Jovan mentioned is now linked up there. You can copy and paste the link on your browser, and this is quite an important study, and it feeds into the question that was focusing on the challenges facing developing countries, not only African countries, but developing countries in general, and it's an important one. And so Jovan just shared his opinion that there's no silver bullet, there's no shortcut. The capacity need to be developed. We are also publishing a resource guide because we're a library, we're library and archives here, so we're a center for knowledge, and we have compiled a resource guide that is the best effort we can make as a library and as an institution to gather knowledge that is relevant to what we were thinking, what we're talking about today. And about thinking I said thinking because I'm thinking that we should dig deeper in this digital knowledge, digital diplomacy, digital presence. I think that all our speakers here have brought to the discussion these different facets. It's not just a question of quality, it's just a question of quantity, it's a question of bubble, being inside the bubble, communicating outside the bubble, listening, using social media to listen better. And there is this capacity development challenge that is not only related to how industrialized a country is, but also how intentional institutions and organizations, NGOs, governments, and ministries are into connecting through digital into the reality that surrounds us, especially at times of extreme challenges like migration, climate change, inequalities. And that is another area that we would like to explore together with DigiWatch and DiploFoundation and other partners, inequalities and what the digital dimension does to it or not. Does it make it worse? Does it make it better? And so this is something that we want to explore. The Commons is continuing to expand opportunities for diplomats, staff, and interns to gather knowledge. But when we are online, other professionals can also profit and benefit from this, as it's the case for this masterclass. To do it better every time, I invite you please to help us with the survey. Please take the survey and help us do these encounters better and fitting your requirements. This is how we work here in Library and Archives at the Commons in particular. We ask your opinions and then we try to make it better every time. As we wrap up now, because it's 2:11, we need to wrap up. We need to keep to our branding, which is we start on time and we end on time. Any final thoughts from all of you on screen? Let's start with Alexandra, perhaps.
It was my pleasure to be here today virtually and to have this conversation. I hope it's a start of such conversation, sharing knowledge and experiences, because I don't think that our resources in this sector or Geneva and will expand much as we would like, and it's probably going to take us time. So I think we need to work more closely together to learn from each other, to amplify our work, and also to support each other more.
Thank you, Alexandra. Anya, a final thought before we wrap up.
Thank you. It was a great experience, and I hope that we will share our knowledge more and to connect better. And I hope that we will find tools that will help that interplay between humans and AI to share our knowledge better.
Thank you. And finally, Jovan Kurbailia, Executive Director, DiploFoundation, your final thoughts?
Thank you, Francesco. Let's make all efforts to reduce gap between rhetorics and reality. I love rhetorics as a discipline in literature, but when we have to address concrete needs of people worldwide, that could be a tricky gap. And all of us, whenever we draft the speech, deliver presentation, let's see how big this gap, and if we reduce it inch by inch, as you are trying with Knowledge Commons and the other initiatives, I think we'll do good service for our work in Geneva, but what is even more important for the all countries and communities worldwide which we are serving.
Well, thank you so much for the three of you. Thank you to all of you in the audience for being with us today. We hope you enjoyed this session. We hope that we will see you again at the Knowledge and Learning Commons. We will continue our digital offer as we go into the new year. And so don't hesitate also to suggest topics that are required in your professional growth as diplomats and international staff and interns here at UN in Geneva and anywhere else, since we are in the digital sphere. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Ciao.